The much awaited IPL retention rules were announced last week, and that has got all the franchisee owners scratching their heads. Hello and welcome to Republic World. I am Ankit Banerjee and I am joined by my colleagues Jishu and Shane. And in this session, we are going to discuss about all the combinations at play which the franchisees are going to adopt. So let's get started. Shane, the retention rules were announced last week. So can you just say what are the highlights of the retention rules that have been announced?
See, it's very interesting you mentioned the retention rules, because I think this is a clear case of the BCCI and the franchises coming up with some sort of a compromise. I mean, you remember in the last mega auction that took place, you were allowed 4 retentions. 4 retentions, no RTMs. Everyone else into the mega auction. This time around, it's different. A franchise can make up to 6 retentions. That includes using 1 RTM card. So that what would happen is, if a franchise, say, retains 5 players, then they can have 1 RTM card in the auction. If you retain 4 players, you can have 2 RTM cards in the auction. You do the math, fairly simple like that. But what the BCCI has done, which is very interesting, is that they've made it very tough, or let's say financially not beneficial for a lot of these franchises to retain players. Why? Because if you look at the price brackets that are there, the first 3 players that you can retain, it's 18 crores, 14 crores and 11 crores. But player 4 and player 5 are once again at 18 crores and 14 crores, which means that you would be shelling out a lot of money to actually be retaining 5 players and then potentially getting an RTM on a 6th player. What it's done is it's ensured that a lot of franchises may very well not want to go the heavy retention way, even if they want to, because financially it would not make that much sense. It would make more sense for them to go into the auction and, with the auction dynamics in play, actually use that to their advantage. Maybe get a few bargains, maybe get back some of their players, maybe get back the players on RTMs who are, let's say, on a cheaper bid. So there's plenty of interesting things, but it is a meeting of the middle of sorts, because again, if a franchise wants to make 6 retentions, they can. They just have to know it'll cost them a lot of money to do that and ensure that they go into the auction with a smaller purse.
Oh, that's fantastic. You really explained it well, Shane. Jishu, you know, all the talk, when we are talking about IPL, all the talk is in and around MS Dhoni. So what is MS Dhoni's situation now that the RTM is back in place? So what is Dhoni's situation?
I mean, see, the new rules, when they were announced, the major talking point apart from the retentions was the return of the uncapped player rule, right? So the uncapped player rule is basically nothing but if any player hasn't played any form of international cricket across formats and does not even hold a BCCI central contract, he will be deemed worthy of, being considered as an uncapped player. Now, MS Dhoni played his last ODI match in 2019, the heartbreaking New Zealand semi-final that we all saw. So apart from that, I mean, after that he announced his retirement the next year. So the BCCI, what now they have done is that, they have brought the uncapped player rule back. So MS Dhoni might possibly end up playing the IPL, but CSK do not necessarily need to retain him, right? He can go back to the auction at lower price. Now, it all depends on MS Dhoni. If he agrees to take a pay cut, I'm sure you'll see him walking out to bat.
What do you think is going to be CSK's roadmap with MS Dhoni?
Simple. You have the option now. The rule is there. Look at the math. I mean, last time when they had to retain him, they had to retain him on a contract of 12 crores. And even that, by the way, wasn't the highest pay bracket. They reserved that for Jadeja, who was, of course, their captain at that point. That didn't work out. But it showed that they were showing faith in a Ravi Jadeja. Dhoni took a lower pay bracket than that. This time now, what it means is they can actually retain him. They don't need to send him out to the auction. You can retain him because the cap on an uncapped player is 4 crores. So they can retain him for 4 crores, and that's a win-win situation for them. Not only do they keep their talisman, but they're saving 8 crores on annual salary and potentially, of course, the salary cap and the purse, rather, to be more specific. So it's great for them. I don't see, it'll be a big surprise if he goes back to the auction pool, because I think a lot of franchises will go after him. Even at this age, could very well be a captain. I think they'll just retain him for 4 crores, story done and dusted.
So it's safe to say that we'll see MS Dhoni, play, don the gloves and all of that in the upcoming season.
110%.
Who are going to be the other retentions for CSK?
I think they'll retain Rituraj Gaikwad, of course. He's the captain. They'll retain Ravindra Jadeja, in my opinion. They also, now I'd like to, make a very unusual choice. I think they can also persist with Samir Rizvi. I'll tell you why. Because the third retention is of 11 crores. The rules that were, BCCI, which they announced, the 4th and the 5th retention are higher than the 3rd retention. So the 4th retention is 18 crore, the 5th retention is 14 crore. So for 11 crores, seeing the future and seeing the 3-year gap that is between the two mega auctions. I think the third retention might be Samir Rizvi. Apart from that, they might also go for Pathirana as their
Exactly, I was waiting for that name to come up.
as their fourth retention for 18 crore, right? Because if Pathirana at this point of time goes to the mega auction, franchises like Mumbai Indians will break the bank for him, right? Mumbai Indians would again like to put a duo of Malinga like kind of a bowler with a Jasprit Bumrah, and that will take a massive financial hit for CSK. So I guess that will be their first retention Gaikwad, second retention Jadeja, third Samir Rizvi, and fourth Pathirana.
I have to interrupt you and add that if they do indeed retain a Rizvi, he won't be there for 11 crores. All these sums that we've put, 18, 14, 11, 18, 14, are for capped players. Rizvi is an uncapped player.
Correct.
At most, you would actually retain him for 4 crores. So I think it's a no-brainer considering
And
how much money they invested in him.
What happens to players like Devon Conway and Rachin Ravindra?
You take the risk. You might RTM one of them. You might be okay losing one of them. That's the nature of the auction as it is, right? You have to kind of bite the bullet and ensure that you get back those or you're able to build a team. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people will say, and a lot of franchise owners were wanting as many as 8 retentions because they said we want to be able to retain our core. Why are we making these scores? But I mean, that's the nature of it. The rules are the rules now, and you have 6. So I think a lot of teams, you will see them let go of a lot of players who they might not necessarily have wanted to part ways with.
Right. Moving on, let's talk about the other franchises. There's been a lot of talk, and obviously there is going to be a lot of talk around Mumbai Indians for obvious reasons. Jishu, if you were the owner of Mumbai Indians, who are the players you're going to retain and why?
Mumbai Indians, in my opinion,
Address the elephant in the room straight up.
Yeah, so
let's
they
talk
are in the
about Rohit
trickiest of
Sharma and
the
Hardik
situation.
Pandya.
Yeah, so they are in the trickiest of the situation. I feel, because of the controversies that happened last year, if they are to retain Hardik, Rohit will leave. In my opinion, I might be wrong on that. But if they retain Rohit and leave Hardik, I mean, that will be backstepping from their own decision, what they did last year. So I think that Rohit might end up going somewhere else. I think they'll retain Hardik. Surya, no one is clear about, what's happening around him. But I think Hardik, Bumrah will be there, too. And Bumrah will be the first retention, just like CSK, right? As Dhoni was in their first retention, I don't think Hardik will be their first retention. So Bumrah will be the first retention. Hardik will be their second retention, I feel. And let's see, leave it up to the auction. What
You
decide
second
to do.
Jishu on that. Who are the players
I'll
you
go
would
one
retain?
further than him. I'll go one further than him.
Please.
Because I think, and there was a lot of talk last year about, the pro Rohit Sharma camp in the MI dressing room. And that talk always included players like Bumrah, it included Sky, Rohit, of course, himself. So what I think they're going to do is they're going to break up that entire coterie, which means you're going to see, of course, they'll keep Bumrah. Of course, they will keep Hardik. They've invested a lot of money in him. But I think both Rohit and Sky are out of the door, one way or the other. We've heard the rumors about Sky. There's been a lot of talk that apparently KKR were interested in engineering a swap deal between him, using him and of course Shreyas Iyer, which would be probably the first time in IPL history that an IPL title winning captain gets swapped. But such is the magnitude or the power of a Sky. And don't forget, Sky now also brings a lot of value considering he is India's captain in the shortest format. And of course, if you're a KKR fan, you remember Sky played for them a long time back. So it would be sort of a homecoming at a different age. All that there. So I think Sky also, if not to KKR, definitely leaves MI. I think you're going to see some very interesting retentions. People are not talking about a Tilak Verma enough. I cannot believe people are not mentioning it because I think he's that one guy who's going to be a superstar. So they will definitely go all out to retain him as well. Whatever apparent disagreements he's had with Hardik aside, they can work together. So I think those will be 3, potentially maybe, I don't know, beyond that, because again, who's there that really made an impact at that degree over the past 3 years? They might want to start afresh, but this will be the core. I think these 3 players will definitely be the core.
Very interesting from a Mumbai Indians point of view. Surely you won't want to be in the shoes of their owner.
Maybe you would. Who knows?
Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the defending champions, and we are talking about Kolkata Knight Riders. Of course, Jishu, you've got a lot of interest there. You also support KKR. I just want to find out, who are the players you are going to retain from KKR?
People have been saying that, if you make all the 5 retentions straight away, you are shelling out a total of 75 crore. But if KKR managed to do that, I don't know the order in which they might, retain their players. But if they retain supposedly a Shreyas Iyer, a Sunil Narayan, Andre Russell, Phil Salt and Rinku Singh, 5 players for 75 crores. See, what do you have here? You have a captain who won you the title. You have a mystery spinner and a phenomenal opener in Sunil Narayan. You have a wicket keeper in Phil Salt and another opener. You have an Andre Russell who is supposedly, you know, a blockbuster kind of a player.
He's the Michael Jordan of cricket.
Exactly, and he can also give you a few overs in between. And then you have a designated finisher, Rinku Singh. I mean, your core cannot get stronger than that, right? Apart from that, you just need to fill up or plug in your gaps in between. So I think that if they retain all the 5 players, I mean, they are pretty much stable. They are pretty much, I mean, good to go. They might not end up doing a Mitchell Stark like they did last year, but I mean, if they retain all 5 of them, and they remember they have one RTM also, right? If they can get someone like an Ankrish, right? So you have your number 4 also sorted. If they can get someone like a Venki through the RTM, so I think they are more or less sorted. I mean, I know they might not go for 5 retentions, but if they shell out 75 crores for 5 retentions, they are pretty much set.
So one thing I had to talk about was, of course, the fact that the KKR management was one of the most vocal against, reducing the number of retentions. In fact, they wanted about 8 retentions, if memory serves me right. So I think you're going to see KKR be one of those teams that do use their, retentions to the maximum. They will use an RTM, and again, the RTM could be anyone. You mentioned Venkatesh Iyer, you mentioned an Ankrish Raghuvanshi. I'm surprised you didn't mention a Varun Chakravarti. Again, someone whose career.
I was also thinking about Varun Chakravarti.
Yes, whose career was basically revived by KKR. I didn't mention, and I'm very surprised again, Harshit Rana. By the way, everyone is going to be keeping all eyes on that Bangladesh series coming. You know why? Because KKR would be hoping that Harshit Rana doesn't get capped. If he gets capped, then the cap goes up. If he doesn't get capped, you can retain him at 4 crores and it's an absolute steal. You might just go that way. There's a lot of uncapped good talent within that side. You could go anywhere. You might not even want to retain all your players, saying, no, we'll RTM one of them. May not. There's a lot of strategy there. I think they would be the one team most disappointed that the mega auction comes now, because they're coming off a perfectly built core and they're coming off a run which was very, very good. Their mentor got plucked away, and after that now the squad will also have to be rebuilt. So I think if you're a KKR fan, which by the way, for those of you who don't know, all 3 of us on this panel are, bit of a frustrating time, really.
What happens to Mitchell Stark?
It will depend on whether or not he wants to play. That is also one thing you have to keep in mind, because this is Stark we're talking about, someone who has remained a champion of Test cricket and a proponent of playing the longest format as and when possible. He played this year's IPL because he wanted to be, tuning up for the T20 World Cup. Next year there's no T20 World Cup, but most importantly there is an Ashes to look forward to at home. Is he going to enter the auction? If he does enter the auction, you may very well see KKR say, you know what, doesn't matter, we'll get you back in the auction. They have done crazy things like that in the past. Don't forget Pat Cummins.
But no, again, my argument to that is, if Mitchell Stark, supposedly there's an Ashes, I know. So now the retention rules that have been announced, they have a catch to it.
Right.
If you don't register in the upcoming mega auctions, you are not eligible to, enroll yourself in the auction that follows the next year. Now 2026 is the year of a T20 World Cup. So if we see it this way, that Stark played the IPL just to fine tune him for the T20 World Cup, and he doesn't enroll for the next year's mega auction, he won't be eligible to play the next IPL.
Because that was, I think, the BCCI's way of clamping down on the crazy sums.
Exactly.
What happened with Pat Cummins and Mitchell Stark in the same auction.
Absolutely.
What is on the grapevine is the fact that, Rohit Sharma, as Shane and you agreed that, may not be retained by Mumbai Indians. So, when you're talking about Rohit Sharma going elsewhere, there have been talks. It's also on the grapevine that, for example, it's probable and possible that, Rohit and Virat, they join hands at RCB. Is that possible?
I think that's just fantasy at this point, because there's 2 teams that have been definitely linked with Rohit. One was Delhi Capitals in the year 2020, earlier this year, when Hardik's return was made imminent. Delhi Capitals were one team that were convincingly linked with trying to sign Rohit. They were rebuffed. They said very clearly, MI said no. Another team who have been very strongly linked, Punjab Kings. I mean, do I see an RCB thing being out of the ordinary? I mean, not really, but I don't see it being as feasible as a lot of people would like to think. I think it's likelier he goes to one of these franchises who would actually have the money. RCB also, a lot of people say that, they have, they are a bit of a banter franchise in that regard, but the last 2-3 years, they've had a very solid core. I don't think they'd want to break that core up, and I don't think that they would necessarily go the way of a Rohit Sharma. I don't think so. The teams that will go will be those that are very desperate for an IPL, and more importantly, very desperate for eyeballs. For eyeballs. A Punjab Kings are probably one of the more derided franchises. DC probably don't have as much of a fan base as they should. RCB, despite their lack of glory, a very dedicated fan base.
See,
Can't take
actually,
that away from them.
see, I'd like to call it. I mean, I know there's a lot of speculation about Rohit Sharma. I don't see him going away from Mumbai. I'll tell you the reason why. Because last year he was the T20 captain. He got removed at a very long time, right? Because we were still, the loss of the World Cup still hadn't sunk in, right? That is when Rohit Sharma was removed from the captaincy. Now see what has happened. He is no more the captain of the T20, Indian T20 team. He has retired from the setup. And during the World Cup, he seemed to gel fine with Hardik. So I think they put their differences aside till the time India won the T20 World Cup. So I feel, Rohit will just go out for Mumbai and play, express himself how he did in this test match.
Which means he's comfortable playing under Hardik's leadership as well.
That would be interesting to watch.
I think because he is no more the captain of the Indian team, right? He has that monkey off his back.
So I get your point. Who are the players? RCB, who are the players they would like to retain?
I don't see them retaining anybody else apart from Virat and a Siraj.
Virat has become like this Lionel Messi figure at Camp Nou.
I mean, he'll play for RCB for, whatever time he likes to play the IPL. So I think they'll just go for Virat and they'll just go for, Siraj. Apart from that, I don't see them because Faf du Plessis is already on his way out. He's an aging
But
captain.
do you think they're going to release Faf du Plessis?
It depends
Because
on
one, he's a captain, then two, he also gets among the runs, gets you off to good starts.
I mean,
he has the experience.
His batting in recent seasons has been found wanting at times. I mean, he had one good year. And by the way, one player who I think they will retain is a Maxwell. He's maverick, sure, but he wins you games when he does go crazy. So I think he's another one. I think they'll let go of Faf. I have a funny feeling. I have no idea why, but I do think that they've probably not seen the kind of returns they expected from him. There is, of course, a rebuild required at that side. Don't forget, there's no Dinesh Karthik. He has stepped away from, cricket
And
as
I think
a whole.
when you're at the mega auction, when you're picking players, you're looking at 3-4 seasons down the line, right?
100%.
It's three seasons down the line.
3 seasons down the line. So obviously, Faf du Plessis does not fall into your scheme of things.
Not at all.
So in that case, they'll have to get a captain. So that's their biggest worry.
So that is where does Rohit Sharma come in?
No, I think it's fanciful thinking. I don't think that will happen. I think quite likely you'll see them go, shopping for a captain. Of course, that goes without saying because they don't have one. They haven't retained. There's been no noise whatsoever about them retaining Faf. So I don't think that's happening. But I think they'll probably get someone as a captaincy candidate and then build the team around him. We know for a fact that Kohli is not going to captain again. He, remember, voluntarily stepped away from RCB captaincy. He was never removed. So he wanted to step away. I don't think he'll captain, but they could very well get a captaincy candidate. And that's true for a lot of teams. I think even a Punjab Kings, who's going to be the captaincy candidate? Shikhar Dhawan has walked away from, cricket as a whole. There's other teams also who potentially be looking. So that's why I think those teams will be the ones where a Rohit Sharma likely lands. So Punjab is a very, very good choice.
See, very interesting thing everybody has been missing is that will Delhi Capitals retain the services of Mitchell Marsh? Mitchell Marsh is Australia's T20 captain. If he goes back to the auction pool and if RCB, do not want to retain Glenn Maxwell, I feel they'll go for Mitchell Marsh. He'll be the captaincy candidate. He can bat up the order. He's a gun fielder. He can bowl as well. So for RCB, I think Mitchell Marsh is an all-round package if they decide to let go of Faf du Plessis.
And again, with Ricky Ponting there, I think he would have this liking towards these Aussie guys.
Yeah, Punjab might also go for Mitchell Marsh because they also do not have a captain as of now. I mean, they have.
And you're talking about Ricky Ponting, he's now gone to Punjab.
Exactly. So, so he'll be looking at guys like Maxwell, Marsh, and these guys if they are at the auction pool.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about Rajasthan Royals, the team, the maiden champions of IPL. They have been consistent throughout the history of IPL, and even now they have got a good core team. You see them retaining which players?
Definitely their top order. You'd be foolish to let go for Joss Butler. You'd be even more foolish to let go for Yashasvi Jaiswal. So those guys aren't going anywhere.
They pick themselves automatically.
110%.
Who is retention 1, who's retention 2?
There, done and dusted for you.
Who's retention 1, who's retention 2?
Oh, I think it'll be Joss who's retention 1.
There's going to be a tough toss-up.
Yeah, it'll be a tough toss-up, but he's also your captain in the moment. So I think you'd stick with him. Yashasvi is potentially 2 or 3. Another player who you'd want to retain, of course, a Yuzi Chahal. You can't let that man go.
RCB knows all about that.
Correct. So you're not letting him go. Others, see, that's the thing. There is enough talent there. Maybe they'll retain a Riyan Parag. We know they love themselves.
What happens to Sanju Samson? What happens to
Sanju also, I think they'll retain.
Trent Bolt?
Bolt is an interesting one. Bolt
because with the new ball, more often than not, he gets you that early wicket.
See, that's the thing. They have a good core. It's very tough to actually make because again, someone like a Dhruv Jarrell was a relative unknown when he was playing for RR, for a couple of seasons back, 2022. Now he's a regular member of the Test squad. He's had good performances against England. He's very well known. So even he would be someone who a lot of franchises might target. When we were talking about teams needing a keeper, RCB, if there's a Dhruv Jurel on offer, you'd be foolish not to go for him. So there's plenty of players, I think, that even RR, much against their will, they won't necessarily be keen to let go of an Ashwin either. Whatever else said and done, they've used him everywhere. Opening bat, floater.
It's very tough.
Yeah,
For Rajasthan Royals, I feel it's the toughest.
Players?
I mean, number one retention, 18 crores for me, absolutely Josh Butler. Number two, I feel for me would be Trent Bolt because you
not Yashasvi Jaiswal.
Not Yashasvi Jaiswal because you see the games of T20 we perceive that it's played by the batsman. Now batting is reactive, bowling is instinctive. We forget a basic rule about cricket, right? Number two might be Trent Bolt, 3 Yashasvi Jaiswal, 4 18 crores Yuzi Chahal, and 5 in my opinion will be a Ravichandran Ashwin because what he did in the TNPL. You are playing on Indian surfaces. So these are my 5 picks for RR. And one
What about
RTM,
Shimron Hetmeyer? Nobody is even talking about Hetmeyer.
Which tells you everything you need to know.
Exactly.
and one might be, they might go with the RTM for Riyan Parag.
Yeah, I think that seems likely. Parag will be either RTM or retained, one way or the other.
There's a Riyan Parag inclination with Rajasthan.
What happens to Sunrisers Hyderabad, the 2016 champions? They've got some real promising guys out there.
That's the thing. I mean, you look at just
I think
their
there are
foreign
3
players.
guys who pick themselves automatically.
Yeah, Klaassen, you'd have Cummins, and of course you'd have Travis Head. How do you not?
What about Abhishek Sharma?
Abhishek Sharma, you can still RTM.
You
I'm
can
just
RTM
saying,
Abhishek
I'm
Sharma.
just saying, if you're looking at who is it that has to be starting 9 times out of 10, these 3 guys picked themselves. Cummins was the captain who made them, transform them from being a joke side to actually reaching the final.
And how?
Exactly. Then Travis Head, I'm sorry, it's Travis Head. And Heinrich Klaassen is Heinrich Klaassen. I don't need to say anything more. That's the thing. Even with them, their Indian core is pretty good. How do you, navigate getting out around someone like, as you mentioned, an Abhishek Sharma, Nitish Kumar Reddy, an Indian pace bowling all-rounder. You just know they're going to retain him. There's no way that man goes to the auction table. If he goes, every franchise will break the bank for him. Pace bowling all-rounder, gun fielder, destructive middle order bat. Writes itself.
You second Shane on that. What happens to Abhishek Sharma?
I
Jishu?
don't think they'll release Abhishek Sharma.
Because if
He'll
he
be
goes to
retained.
the pool, any team will like to break the bank for the guy.
And not because of that.
He's
See,
got
out
age
of-
on his side as well.
Exactly. Out of 10 teams, at least 5 teams want a proper opener. And if you have a left-handed proper, who can go and tonk the ball and who can, dominate bowler at the top of the order, I don't feel they'll release Abhishek Sharma. He might be retained for the 11 crore spot because now he's a cap player also for India.
So who's your top pick, top retention? from
My
SRH?
top, they'll retain Pat Cummins as their first retention.
It has to be the silencer.
Yeah.
Can't be anyone else.
He's the captain also, and they played the finals also. We are not giving Pat Cummins enough credit, but Sunrisers played the finals last year. Number 2 will be Travis Head. Number 3 in my eyes are Abhishek Sharma. He'll be on number 3. 4 has to be Nitish Kumar Reddy. He's
So
an
Nitish
upcoming
Kumar Reddy
talent.
gets 18 crores.
No, he won't. He's
sorry.
not capped.
Yeah, he's
He's
not
not
capped.
capped.
He's
He
not
could have
capped.
been capped, but
Yeah.
he got injured before that Zimbabwe series.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
SRH dodged a bullet.
So I
now
guess
what
they'll go with
happens?
3 retentions.
So what happens is if that you retain one player, and if say for instance whatever 4th, 5th, if they're uncapped, the maximum they can get is 4 crores. That is the rule. That's where a Dhoni this thing comes in.
Yeah.
No? If you are uncapped, the maximum you get is 4 crores on a retention. So they'll retain him for a maximum of 4 crores. 4 crores for an Indian pace bowling all rounder. Yes, please. Any day of the week.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter if he was capped. I'd retain him for 11 crores.
Absolutely.
So now we left with 2 more teams. Of course, we talk about Punjab Kings and the Delhi Capitals.
Punjab Kings are going to retain absolutely no one.
They'll
because
start
that's what they do.
afresh. They'll start afresh.
They start afresh in mini auctions. This
They've
is the
already
mega-
shown signs of that.
Yeah. Have you seen the clear out of their coaching staff?
Right,
It's just
exactly.
It's bad. So they are going to, at most,
From
I
a
think,
clean slate, they'll start.
if they retain anyone, there are 2 players who I feel, if you ask me, they should retain. It has to be Ashutosh and Shashank. Those 2 guys carried their form
Promising
in the
Indian
second.
But
guys.
they are also again not capped.
That's the advantage.
Yeah.
They can
They are
actually
also
retain
not
them for
capped.
8 crores.
Yeah.
And from 120, that means you can build a whole squad with 112 crores. Sure.
I'm
That's-
sure they have thought that out.
Yeah, that's
No,
manna from heaven
but
for
going by
Punjab.
Punjab's logic, they played really well, they'll release them.
someone else will get them for 2 crores.
Yeah, that's been Punjab's strategy. They played really well, they'll release them this year.
So they're retaining no one. As for Delhi, I think Delhi will retain a month for sure. I think they've invested far
That's
too
the first retention.
Fraser McGurk, for sure.
Yes, you have to retain a Jake Fraser McGurk. Other players who they could potentially retain, if you're looking at the Indian core, see, I think you're going to see a Prithvi Shaw go into the auction.
And Akshar Patel also.
What happens to Akshar Patel?
Retain. You have to retain him.
You-
Gives you too much utility. The
Absolutely.
perfect utility player for T20s. Gives you 2 to 3 on a good day, 4 overs, can bat lower to middle order. Very
Great
good safe
fielder.
catcher.
Absolutely.
So you have to retain an Akshar. You have to retain him.
So I think more or less we have covered all the teams in this session. So yes, as you heard it from our panelists over here, the teams, the players whom they are going to, retain, the players whom they might release. We'll find out all about that. Stay tuned to Republic World. This is our Sport Fit. Thank you so much for watching us in this session.